The Owl House is an animated Disney Channel series that was quite popular when it first aired in January of 2020. The series follows Luce Noceda as she finds a portal to the demon realm. She is taken in by witch Ida Clawthorne and her housemate, a demon named King. Luce, under the guidance of Ida the Owl Lady, trains to become a witch despite not having any magical ability. During this journey to become a witch, Luce meets many friends that help her learn about the world of the Boiling Isles, and learn how she can perform magic in a long-forgotten way. Throughout the show, she comes up against the mysterious ruler of the Boiling Isles, Emperor Bellos, and with her friends, she works to save the Boiling Isles from his horrifying plans against the witches of the Demon Realm. It is a cartoon that embraces having a quirky main character, with characters in the Boiling Isles knowing about as much about the human realm as Luce knows about the demon realm. It makes for an interesting back and forth of world-building conversations that fit in well with the pace of the show. Now that we know a little bit about the show, let's dive in with the queerness. Queerness in the Owl House. In the world of the Owl House, queerness is a topic that isn't nearly as taboo as it is in real life. As much as I love and appreciate the leaps that the general public has made in understanding LGBTQIA+ topics, I feel that it's viewed much more naturally in the world of the Owl House. There are a good variety of relationships that are portrayed within the show that I'd really like to discuss. First off, let's discuss the main relationship in the show, nicknamed Lumity. The relationship between the main character Luce and her enemy-turned-friend-turned-girlfriend, Amity Blight. When Amity is first shown in the Owl House, she is a bully toward Luce's new friends, Willow and Gus. Then, through a rocky relationship with Amity's siblings, Amity is shown to share a love of Luce's favorite series, The Good Witch Azura. As time goes on, the girls bond over their shared love of the series, and their crushes on one another. Amity looks to ask Luce de Grom, basically the equivalent of prom on the Boiling Isles, with a bit of magical combat involved. Really, each wants to ask the other to be her girlfriend.
Do you want to go out with me? No, I was so ready. I'm sorry, you can say it. Okay. Amity Blight, do you want to go out with me? Yes! Okay!
Their relationship is often said by other characters to be cute.
You guys aren't cute! I still have more friends than you!
The girls try to be there for one another, even if one doesn't know the next thing about how the other's world works. But it comes together in cute scenes like this one.
I don't know what rituals you have in the human realm, but I'll help you pick some flowers and we can do something here.
I like this relationship a lot. It's supportive and pretty darn gay. A great example of a lesbian, Amity, and a bisexual, Luce, in a relationship. The next relationship I'd like to cover is one that I feel is a great example of how the Boiling Isles really accepts everyone, no matter their gender or sexuality. Rain Whispers has had a long on-again, off-again relationship with Ida the Owl Lady. Their relationship is a cool one and shows widespread acceptance of not only non-binary genders as Rain grows up and attends school and events. The Owl Lady, I feel, has a more casual queer relationship with Rain, but it's a sweet one that developed over years together, apart and reunited. Rain fosters Ida's relationship with bard magic, which she has long since stopped using, even as a wild witch, who uses all types of magic. In the world of the Owl House, there are different sectors or different kinds of magic, and a main part of this is a sort of ceremony, in which case you usually get sealed or bound to using one type of magic as you grow up. Except if you're a wild witch, or in the Emperor's Coven. Both of those kinda just do whatever they want, within reason. Now, Rain cares for Ida, no matter the form she takes, human or cursed as the Owl Beast. Then there is a relationship that I only see getting a little bit of love. I will admit that it's not something that I have seen confirmed, either within the show or by showrunner Dana Terrace, but Hootie and Lilith Clawthorne are in what I believe is a QPR, a queer platonic relationship. The two, like many characters in the show, start off as enemies before the relationship turns into a close friendship when Lilith gets more involved in the show. The worm demon Hootie and witch Lilith bond over a sports match and then become regular pen pals and adopt some pretty cute nicknames for one another, Hootsufer and Lulu. As Lilith is confirmed to be aromantic and asexual, I don't believe there to be those kinds of relationships between the two, but many fans of the show insist that the pair have just a friendship between them. I believe that it is something that goes a bit deeper than that, as a queer platonic relationship. But like I said, I can unfortunately find no solid answer from the show's team, so I suppose this is just a bit more of a headcanon than anything else. I think the really cool thing about the Owl House's queer representation is that it shows it's not just something that takes place in a fantasy world, in the demon realm, but it also takes place in the human realm as well, with Luce and another non-binary character, although theirs is, while very present, a little bit more subtle. Which I think is great. You shouldn't have to necessarily explain every queer character. You can just be like, hey, they have a role, and whether they're in the background, they're just part of a scene, they're still there, existing. And that's pretty darn cool. Finally, I want to talk about the found family dynamic that runs rife throughout the show. The first set of characters we are really introduced to in the demon realm are Ida and her roommate King. King is a demon whose origin goes unknown for most of the show. There's even a whole episode in which Hootie goes through different types of demons to try to help King figure out more about his origins, as he has very few memories of his life before being adopted by Ida. And then adopting Luce into the Owl House, the found family dynamic starts off pretty strong.
I don't fit in at home. You don't fit in here. If I stay, we could not fit in together.
The trio works to support one another as more is learned about each of them in the series, especially as Luce's struggle to fit in mirrors Ida's own school journey. Then, as Ida works to keep her chronic illness, her curse of turning into the owl beast, under control and work with it instead of against it, as well as supporting King through his journey of self-discovery, first as a demon, then as a titan. The found family extends to many other characters in the series, like Luce's main group of friends, nicknamed the Hex Squad, and I'll be referring to them as such for the remainder of the video. That feeling of not fitting in is felt first with Willow, then Gus. The three of them support one another through school, sports, and other adventures. Then, as Luce's relationship with Amity develops, it is shown how Amity's relationship with her family is pretty unhealthy. Amity bonds with the group, becoming less of a bully, more of a close friend. As Amity grows closer with Luce and the rest of the Hex Squad, she finds more and more issues with her parents, especially her mother. Now, those four characters make up, I'd say, the core of the squad. Hunter is a late addition to the Hex Squad, originally known as the Golden Guard. He slowly pulls away from a life only serving the Emperor Bellows. Late into Season 2, he warms up to the squad, though is still a bit nervous around them in general. The four of them do warm up to Hunter and welcome him into their band of misfits. Even as he discovers just what his relationship to Bellows is, the Hex Squad is by his side, more his family than the Emperor ever was. With everyone that gets welcomed into the found family dynamic, it just grows stronger. Every member is welcomed in as family when friends or even blood relatives fail. It's great to see. Neurodiversity within the Owl House. Neurodiversity is a strong theme within the Owl House. I feel this is a theme addressed from the very first episode of the show. In the first episode, we see a lot of youth imprisoned in the conformatorium. Hearing from these youth, it's obvious that they're different or weird, just like the main character, Luce. Then, as Luce learns her own way to use magic, I think that this is another potential sign of neurodiversity. Different methods of learning how to do common activities. Glyphs are three interconnected things: a way of performing magic, a sort of neurodiverse coping strategy, and a language. Luce finds this new to her way to do something that in the demon realm is completely natural. I think this idea of doing things differently as a neurodivergent person is strengthened through the idea of wild witches and wild magic. It is a refusal to stick to or be confined by one path. But also, I'd like to point out this line.
You've always looked down on me because I'm wild, but fortunately, that just made me work harder than you!
Not only is that free self-expression of being a wild witch looked down upon, similarly to how self-expression as a neurodivergent person is looked down upon, but it is confirmed that this difference may cause both to work harder to to achieve the same thing. This idea is also clearly seen when looking at glyphs. The glyphs for each spell and how to combine ideas in a way to get your concept across is much more difficult than using magic that most people on the Boiling Isles have easy access to through bile sacs within them. Through the course of the show, Luce shares her knowledge of glyphs, of alternative coping strategies to get through a world that isn't made for her, with both Ida and Lilith. In learning about glyphs and how to combine them, this highlights how even the same coping strategy might be easier for one person over another. Ida struggles to combine glyphs, despite Lilith excelling. Glyphs are overall a great example of people with different skill sets learning the same thing in a different way. While this isn't a singularly neurodiverse problem, everyone can learn different ways to do things after all. I've found that navigation through a world made by and for neurotypical people can put stress and hardship on those whose brains process the world differently. Of course, if glyphs were my only reason for believing that characters like Luce were neurodivergent, I wouldn't include this section of the video. It'd just be my own fun little headcanon. But even outside of the demon realm, we find ways that Luce is different. In the very first scenes of the show, the reason she finds the portal to the demon realm is because of her hyperfixation on the Good Witch Azura books. Owlbert takes the book she had half-heartedly thrown out to appease her mother and go to a camp. We also see that a lot of her school projects either focus directly on the Good Witch Azura books or on similar strange fantasy creatures, or projects that, through creative means, often end in disaster, and or Luce getting reprimanded. And as we learn later, inconsistent grades as well. This kind of weirdness, I feel, is common in neurodiverse folks. We might get fixated or hyper-fixated on a particular thing like this, which can lead to some distant relationships with peers. These weird interests, however, foster some friendships, especially in the demon realm. First with Ida and King, then with Willow, Gus, and even Amity, especially with Amity showing the shared interest in Luce's obsession with the Good Witch Azura novels. These interests can also lead to negative consequences, getting bullied, for example, but I feel, especially with Willow, Gus, and Luce, that shared experience of being bullied kind of strengthened their bond together.
We know what it's like to feel alone.
And abandoned. And misunderstood.
Overall, I think it's a great example within this show of how people bond and band together. Trauma in the Owl House. Originally, this section was going to talk about chronic illness as well as trauma, but I feel like Oakwyrm has a video that covers the chronic illness section way better than I ever could. I'll link it here and in the description, but with that being said, I think that trauma links into this as well. While the show ties trauma into chronic illness in an interesting and strong way when looking into Ida's past, I think characters like Hunter show a different way of handling trauma that I'd like to explore. Hunter is a character who's very intertwined with the villain of the show, Bellows, at least in the beginning. Well, I'd say throughout the show, but especially in the beginning. Through involving himself more with the Hex Squad, Hunter starts to untangle that relationship. Of course, even peeking into his and Bellows' relationship, it's very clear that this bond, just like Amity's with her parents, also is definitely not a healthy one. It's obvious that deconstructing his relationship and the trauma caused by Bellows is a difficult, gradual process. In what I'll call one of Hunter's first main episodes, he joins Luce in going through Bellows' memories, which does a lot in helping Hunter to rethink the relationship. However, this is definitely a source of trauma for Hunter as well. This is one event that really stuck with Hunter, leading to flashbacks and panic attacks. The way that the Hex Squad, Gus in particular, handles this panic attack in the future and helps Hunter through it is not only great, but realistic. The breathing exercises recommended are actually ones that I've used to calm anxiety attacks in the past, to pretty good success. I'm really happy to see that this anxiety calming tool is shown for kids as well. It was used and taught not only by Gus, but also in a flashback where Willow teaches it to Gus. Gus also seems to have flashbacks, but these ones are magical flashbacks. I love that it takes this realistic teaching method, especially in a kids show like this. The show does a great job of, showing different ways that people experience and deal with trauma. It's shown great diversity in how people handle troubling experiences. My overall thoughts. The Owl House is a show that covers a lot of topics while also being tons of animated fun and adventure. Despite it being a show for youth 7 and up, the way it handles the experiences of the characters is surprisingly mature and, I'd argue, accurate. It doesn't shy away from any of the topics it discusses, good or bad. This is a show from Disney that I would definitely recommend if you haven't watched it yet. In amongst a world of fantasy, demons, and monsters, there are situations that are found in real life, from mental health to LGBTQIA+ representation, both in the demon realm and the human realm. It's a show that I loved watching the first time, as much as the multiple subsequent rewatches that I've done. As of posting this video, it's been just over a year since the last episode of the show aired. I hope this brings more light to an amazing animated show, and I hope that you give it a shot if you haven't already. If you have any topics about mental health or LGBTQIA+ subjects you'd like to see covered, please let me know down in the comments. As always, my resources are in the description below. Thanks for watching the OCD Enby. Stay safe out there.